Most people will go their entire lives one question away from a completely different future, one question away from the job, one question away from the relationship, one question away from the opportunity, one question away from the respect they secretly feel they deserve, but they never ask. Not because they're not capable, not because they're not worthy, not because the world said no. They never ask because fear said no first. And that's the tragedy. Not rejection, not failure, not embarrassment. The tragedy is living in a prison built by unspoken words. Think about it. How many doors in your life are still closed, not because they were locked, but because you never knocked? How many people are waiting to help you, notice you, choose you, trust you, love you, forgive you, hire you, teach you, open the way for you, but you never asked? And the cruel part is this: life rarely rewards the silent. It rewards the clear. It rewards the courageous. It rewards the one who can stand in uncertainty and still speak. Because asking is not weakness. Asking is power. There is a strange kind of suffering that almost nobody talks about. Not the pain of failure, not the pain of heartbreak, not even the pain of loss. I'm talking about the pain of not asking. The raise you never requested, the truth you never said, the boundary you never set, the opportunity you never reached for, the person you never told how you felt. And years later, you tell yourself a story. Maybe it wouldn't have worked anyway. Maybe the timing wasn't right. Maybe they would have said no. Maybe you were just being realistic. But deep down, you know the truth. It wasn't realism, it was fear. Because silence feels safe in the moment, but expensive over time. You can survive one awkward conversation. You can survive one rejection. You can survive one uncomfortable pause. What ruins people is rarely one bad moment. It's 10 years of hesitation, 10 years of almost sending the message, almost making the call, almost negotiating, almost leaving, almost beginning. And then one day you wake up and realize your life was not blocked by fate. It was blocked by unspoken words. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The world does not reward people for secretly being worthy. It rewards people who can communicate value, who can state desire, who can make a request, who can bear uncertainty without collapsing. And somewhere along the way, most of us were taught the opposite. We were taught that asking makes you needy, that wanting too much makes you unattractive, that if you deserve something, people should simply notice, that if it's meant for you, it will arrive without friction. No, that is not wisdom. That is fear dressed up as patience. Because asking is not weakness. Asking is participation. It is the moment you stop waiting for the world to guess your needs and start acting like your life is yours to shape. The Stoics understood something most people still don't. You cannot control whether life says yes, but you can control whether you had the courage to ask. And sometimes, that one act changes everything. In this video, we're going to break down why asking feels so terrifying, why most people sabotage themselves before they ever open their mouth, and how to ask for money, love, opportunity, forgiveness, and respect in a way that is calm, powerful, and deeply stoic. Because once you understand this, really understand it, you stop living like a spectator in your own life, and you start becoming the person who knocks. Before you learn how to ask, you need to understand why asking feels so dangerous. And for that, we need one of the most important ideas in Stoicism, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus said that some things are up to us, and some things are not. Simple, obvious, easy to say, and still, most people build their whole emotional life as if this isn't true. Let's make it real. Imagine a man named Daniel. He has worked at the same company for 3 years. He solves problems nobody else wants. He stays late. He trains new people. He carries half the weight of the team. And every few months, he tells himself the same thing. This is the week I ask for the raise. But he doesn't. Why? Because in his mind, he is not preparing for a conversation. He is preparing for a verdict. He thinks if they say no, it means you're not that valuable. You overestimated yourself. You should have stayed quiet. You asked for too much. That's why his chest tightens before he even starts. Not because asking is dangerous, because he has confused the response with his worth. Now let's apply Stoicism. What is in Daniel's control? His preparation, his evidence, his tone, his posture, his clarity, his willingness to speak. What is outside his control? His boss's mood, the company budget, office politics, timing, the final answer. That distinction changes everything, because now the goal is no longer make them say yes. The goal becomes show up with clarity, dignity, and self-command. That is a completely different energy. And this is where people get stuck. They walk into conversations trying to control the ending, trying to engineer approval, trying to avoid discomfort at all costs. But Stoicism says your job is not to control the outcome. Your job is to act well. That's it. Think of it like an arrow. You aim carefully, you prepare the shot, you steady your breath, you release. After that, the arrow belongs to the wind. The Stoic understands this. You do not chase the arrow through the sky trying to steer it mid-air. You let it go. That is what a strong ask feels like. You prepare, you deliver, you release. If the answer is yes, good. If the answer is no, also good, because now you have reality. And reality is always more useful than hope mixed with fear. This applies to everything. Asking someone out, pitching your idea, requesting help, apologizing, setting a boundary, telling the truth. The problem is never just the words. The problem is that you want the words to guarantee safety. They can't. No words can do that. But Stoicism gives you something better, the ability to walk into uncertainty without losing yourself. That's power. Not the power to force the answer, the power to survive the answer. And once you realize you can survive the answer, asking becomes easier. Not comfortable, but possible. And possible is enough. So here's the first lesson. Do not ask from the desperate need to control what happens next. Ask because it is your responsibility to be honest about what you want. That shift from control to character is where the art of asking begins. Now here's the part most people never hear. People are not as resistant to helping you as your fear tells you they are. In fact, very often, people want to help. They want to contribute. They want to advise. They want to feel useful. They want to feel chosen. They want to matter. But the way you ask determines whether they feel invited or pressured. And that difference is everything. Let's take Maya. She's a young creator, talented, sharp, consistent, but invisible. Not because her work is bad, because she keeps trying to do everything alone. She watches creators she admires, studies them, learns from them, even drafts messages asking for advice or collaboration. And every time, she deletes them. Why? Because she doesn't want to be annoying. She doesn't want to seem small. She doesn't want to hear nothing back. So instead, she stays silent and calls it focusing on herself. But that's not focus. That's self-protection. And this is where people lie to themselves. They call fear by more respectable names: patience, independence, humility, timing. But underneath it is the same thing. I don't want to feel rejected. Now here's where psychology matters. People do not respond well to entitlement. They also do not respond well to apology. Both create discomfort. Entitlement says, "You owe me your time." Apology says, "I know I probably don't deserve your attention." Both are weak. One is inflated weakness, the other is collapsed weakness. The stronger frame is invitation. Invitation says, "I respect your time. I know what I'm asking, and you are free to say no." That is powerful, because pressure makes people retreat. Freedom makes people relax, and relaxed people are far more open than pressured people. And here's the deeper truth. When people help you, they often feel more connected to you afterward, not less, because giving creates investment. If someone contributes to your growth, your project, your healing, your success,
Now they have a reason to care. That's not manipulation. That's human nature. People like being part of a meaningful story. They like being the one who opened the door, the one who gave the advice, the one who believed early, the one who made the introduction, the one who said yes when it mattered. But if you never ask, you never give them that chance. And then you tell yourself nobody cared. No, you just never let them participate. That is the reframe. You are not bothering people by asking well. You are offering them the freedom to choose generosity. And if they decline, fine. No resentment, no collapse. But if they say yes, something powerful happens. Not only do you move forward, you stop seeing yourself as someone who must do everything alone. And that, by itself, can change a life.
But here's where this gets even more uncomfortable. Most people don't fail at asking other people. They fail before that. They fail in private. Before you send the message, before you make the call, before you walk into that room, you have to ask yourself a harder question. What do I actually want? Not what sounds impressive, not what other people expect, not what would make your ex regret losing you, not what would look good online. What do you want? Most people are terrible at asking because they're not clear inside. They want more money, but haven't decided how much. They want love, but tolerate confusion. They want respect, but never define their boundaries. They want freedom, but keep making choices that trap them. They want a better life, but refuse the discomfort that comes with requesting change. Clarity is magnetic. Confusion is exhausting. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are muddy, your words will be muddy. If your words are muddy, your asks will be weak. If your asks are weak, your life will become a museum of almost. So stop saying, I just want things to be better. Better how? Stop saying, I want more. More what? Stop saying, I wish people valued me. How exactly would that look? Would it mean higher pay, more honesty, more time, more commitment, more boundaries, more recognition, more access, more responsibility, less disrespect? Name it. Because when you name it, you can ask for it. And when you ask for it, reality can finally respond. This is why the first great act of asking is internal. Sit alone. No music, no notifications, no performance. And ask yourself, what am I no longer willing to live without? What conversation am I avoiding? What request would make my life better immediately? Where am I hoping instead of speaking? What have I been calling patience that is actually fear? Those questions are not comfortable, but they are liberating because a clear person can walk into the world with force. Not loud force, not aggressive force, quiet force, the kind that comes from self-knowledge.
Now we need to deal with the real issue. Not technique, not wording, not body language. Fear. Because let's be honest, most people already know how to ask. They just don't know how to handle the possibility of hearing no. And that fear is rarely about logistics. It's about identity. You're not afraid of the word itself. You're afraid of what you think the word will mean. No means I'm not enough. No means I embarrassed myself. No means I misread the situation. No means I reached too far. No means I should have stayed quiet. That's why asking feels so intense. The answer doesn't just feel like an answer. It feels like judgment. Let's talk about Leah. Leah has been in a relationship for 2 years. From the outside, everything looks stable. No major fights, no dramatic betrayal. But something is wrong. She feels emotionally alone. She wants more honesty, more effort, more presence. But instead of asking directly, she adapts. She stays agreeable. She says it's fine when it isn't. She convinces herself she's being mature. She is not being mature. She is being afraid. Because somewhere deep down, she knows that the moment she asks for what she truly needs, one of two things will happen. Either the relationship will deepen, or the illusion will break. And that is what people fear most. Not just rejection, revelation.
because asking forces reality into the open. This is why the Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, imagining the worst before it happens, not to become pessimistic, to become free. So let's do that. What if you ask and they say no? What then? You feel embarrassed, your body gets hot, your stomach drops. Maybe you replay it in your mind all evening. And then what? Tomorrow comes. You wake up. The sky is still there. Coffee still tastes like coffee. Your legs still work. Your future still exists. Life continues. That matters, because the mind treats rejection like a catastrophe. But most rejection is just discomfort with dramatic marketing. A no is not a wound unless your ego keeps touching it. A no is information. That job is not available. That person is not aligned. That idea needs work. That room is not yours. That timing is off. Good. Now you know. Now you can move. You know what actually wastes a life? Not rejection, false hope. Staying in situations that only survive because nobody is brave enough to be honest. That is where years disappear. So here is the Stoic challenge. Train your nervous system to survive no. Deliberately. Ask for small things. Ask for adjustments. Ask for upgrades. Ask for feedback. Ask questions you might not like the answer to. Not because life is a game, because courage is built through exposure. Every time you hear no and remain intact, your mind learns something new. This did not kill me. And once your body believes that, your whole life starts changing. Because now, when the big moment comes, the raise, the confession, the pitch, the apology, the boundary, you won't be relying on fake confidence. You'll have something better, evidence. Evidence that you can hear the answer and stay standing. That is real confidence.
Now let's make this practical, because asking is not one skill. It changes depending on what's at stake. There are 4 major asks that shape most lives, and if you master these 4, you will move through the world very differently. 1. The material ask. Money, resources, opportunity. This is the ask most people postpone the longest. More money, more responsibility, more access, more resources. And the reason it feels so personal is because money gets tangled up with worth. So let's simplify it. If you are asking for a raise, a promotion, a rate increase, or support for a project, your job is not to beg. Your job is to present reality clearly. What have you contributed? What results have you created? What standard are you operating at? What specifically are you requesting? That's it. Daniel, the man from earlier, finally goes into the meeting. Not angry, not apologetic, not overly polished. Clear. He says, over the last year, I've taken on X, Y, and Z. I've helped improve this process, trained these people, and consistently handled work above my current role. I'd like to discuss adjusting my compensation to reflect that. Clean, rational, adult. That is a strong material ask. And if the answer is no, do not crumble. Ask one follow-up. What would need to be true for this to become possible in the future? Now you have information, a timeline, a standard, a signal. And if their answer reveals that growth is not coming, good. Now reality is finally on the table. 2. The relational ask. Love, attention, clarity, time. This is where people play the most games. They like someone, but act casual. They need clarity, but act unbothered. They want more effort, but call themselves low maintenance. Why? Because relational asks expose the heart, and the heart hates risk. But the Stoic rule here is simple. Express, don't perform. If you like someone, say it clearly. If you need clarity, ask for it clearly. If a relationship is starving you, stop pretending hunger is peace. Leah finally has the conversation. She doesn't accuse, she doesn't dramatize, she doesn't hide. She says, I care about this relationship, but I don't feel fully met in it. I need more consistency, honesty, and emotional presence. I want to know if that's something you truly want to build with me. That is scary, but it is clean, and clean is merciful. If the answer is yes, now the relationship has a chance to deepen. If the answer is no, now she can stop bleeding in slow motion. Either way, truth wins. That is the point. 3. The creative ask. Belief, collaboration, feedback, support. This one matters for anyone building something from nothing: an idea, a business, an audience, a book, a film, a vision. Creative people often suffer in silence because they are too attached to being self-contained. They think asking for help weakens the purity of the work. It doesn't. It accelerates the work. Maya, the creator from earlier, finally sends the message. Hey, I've been studying your content for a while, and your storytelling has helped me a lot. I'm building a channel in a similar space and working hard to improve. If you're open to it, I'd love to ask you 2 short questions about pacing and retention. Totally understand if your schedule doesn't allow it. That message is strong for one reason. It is specific. Not, can you mentor me? That's too big. But, can I ask 2 specific questions? Now it feels possible. And here's the secret to creative asks. People are more likely to help when they can feel momentum. They don't want to carry dead weight. They want to strengthen movement. So show that you are already in motion. Not, can you save me? But, I'm building this. I'm serious. Here's where I need insight. That changes everything. 4. The forgiveness ask. Repair, accountability, a second chance. This is the hardest ask of all, because here you are not asking for gain, you are asking to repair damage. And most people ruin this moment by trying to protect themselves while apologizing. They say, I'm sorry, but you also. I didn't mean it like that. I was stressed. No, that is not an apology. That is self-defense wearing the clothes of remorse. The Stoic rule here is accountability without excuse. If you want forgiveness, begin with truth. I was wrong. I did this. It hurt you. I understand that. I'm not asking you to pretend it didn't matter. I'm asking for the chance to show, over time, that I can do better. That is a real ask. Notice what it does not do. It does not demand immediate trust. It does not demand instant closure. It does not try to control the healing. Because if you broke trust, you do not get to rush the repair. You get to offer sincerity and then live consistently enough for your words to become believable. That is the Stoic way. Different asks, same principles. Clarity, calm, specificity, courage, detachment. Ask cleanly, ask honestly, ask without surrendering your dignity. That is how you move through the world like someone whose life belongs to them.
Now here is the part almost nobody teaches. If you do not know how to receive, you will never fully learn how to ask. Because a lot of people are not just afraid of rejection, they are afraid of being helped. Think about that. They ask, then feel guilty when someone says yes. They minimize compliments. They reject generosity. They rush to pay everything back immediately. They act uncomfortable when someone shows up for them. Why? Because receiving makes them feel exposed. It puts them in the position of need, and to the ego, that feels dangerous. But here's the truth. If you ask with honesty, and someone says yes, and then you refuse to receive it well, you are dishonoring the exchange. You are saying, in effect, I wanted help, but I don't know how to let kindness land. That matters, because generosity needs somewhere to go. When someone gives you their time, support, trust, money, wisdom, encouragement, forgiveness, or presence, and you receive it with grace, you complete the circuit. That is how human connection deepens. Seneca understood this. Giving and receiving are not opposites. They are partners. And weak receiving usually comes from one of 2 things: pride or shame. Pride says, I don't need anyone. Shame says, I don't deserve this. Both block intimacy. A strong receiver does something simple. They let the gift arrive. No performance, no over-explaining, no self-erasure. Just, thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate that. I'll use this well. That is strength. Receiving is not passivity. Receiving is trust. It is the ability to say, I do not become smaller because someone gave to me. In fact, receiving well often makes people want to give more, not because you manipulated them, because gratitude is magnetic. Think about the people you love helping. They're usually not the people who act weird, guarded, dismissive, or burdened by your generosity. They are the people who receive with sincerity, the people who let your help matter. Be that person, because the final maturity of asking is not just having the courage to request what you need, it is having the humility to accept it when it comes. So here is the truth beneath all of this. The art of asking is not really about persuasion. It is about self-respect. It is about refusing to spend your life hoping that people will magically understand what you never had the courage to say. It is about telling the truth before regret hardens around it. It is about becoming someone who can stand in uncertainty and still speak. Think about those three people. Daniel asked for the raise. Maybe he got it, maybe he didn't, but now he knows who he is. Leah asked for honesty. Maybe the relationship deepened, maybe it ended, but now she is no longer disappearing inside politeness. Maya sent the message. Maybe it led to a collaboration, maybe it got ignored, but now she is no longer calling silence independence. Do you see the pattern? The moment they asked, they changed before the answer, before the result, before the external reward. They changed because they stopped abandoning themselves in the moment that mattered. That is the real victory. Marcus Aurelius spent his life reminding himself of something most people forget. You are going to die, not as a threat, as a clarification. So ask yourself this: at the end of your life, what will hurt more? The no you heard, or the question you never asked? The awkward minute, or the decade of silence that followed? The sting of rejection, or the slow poison of wondering who you might have become if you had just spoken? That is the choice. Not comfort or discomfort, temporary discomfort, or permanent regret. So here is your challenge. In the next 24 hours, not someday, not next month, not when you feel perfectly ready, ask for something. The call, the message, the meeting, the truth, the apology, the invitation, the boundary, the request. Just ask and notice what happens inside you. Notice the resistance, notice the stories, notice the excuses, notice how quickly your mind tries to protect your old identity. Then do it anyway. Make it specific, make it honest, make it calm. Control what you can, your intention, your clarity, your courage. Release what you cannot, their answer, their mood, their limitations, their choice. And then ask, because your life does not change only when the world says yes. Sometimes it changes the moment you stop hiding. Every time you ask with dignity, you train your nervous system to stop treating honesty like danger, and slowly, something incredible happens. You become someone who can face reality directly. That changes your energy, your posture, your words, your decisions, your future. You stop living as a spectator in your own life. You become a participant, and participants get results. Pause, ask, receive, grow. If this video spoke to you, subscribe, and in the comments, write one thing, just one, that you are finally going to ask for in the next 24 hours. Not what you wish for, what you will actually ask for. Say it clearly, make it real. Until next time, stay steady, stay honest, and keep asking.